Freeze, don't move. Because in about 10 seconds, you're going to see an animal do something that looks exactly like death, and I need you to understand what's actually happening inside its body when it does, because it's stranger than anything you've been told. There's a creature that walks into your yard almost every single night, and the moment most people spot it under the porch light, their whole body reacts before their brain even catches up. Patchy gray fur, small black eyes that don't blink right, a long, pink, hairless tail that looks like it belongs on something else entirely, and a mouth that opens wider than it has any right to, revealing more teeth than a dog. 50 of them. More teeth than almost any land mammal on this continent. Your instinct says predator. Your instinct says danger. Your instinct says get the shovel, call animal control, do something before it gets close to the kids or the dog. And for generations, that instinct has been treated as common sense. Kill it, chase it, get rid of it. But here's the question nobody in your neighborhood has ever actually stopped to ask. If this animal is so dangerous, why doesn't it run from you? Every other wild creature in your backyard treats you like a threat. Rabbits scatter the second a door opens. Raccoons vanish into the tree line before you even see them clearly. Deer freeze for half a second and then explode into a sprint. But this one stands there, hisses, bares its teeth in a performance that looks terrifying. And then if you get too close, it does something that will make you take a step back in horror. It collapses, tongue hanging out, eyes glazed and empty, completely, utterly still, like it just died right in front of you mid-sentence. Most people back away at that point, convinced they just witnessed something horrifying. What they actually witnessed is one of the strangest, most misunderstood survival mechanisms in the entire animal kingdom. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this creature never runs, why almost everything you were taught about it is wrong, and why the thing you've been chasing off your property might be the reason your yard is safer than you think. Stay with me, because the ending of this connects to something happening in your backyard tonight that you have never noticed. Let's start with the part that scares people the most: the hissing, the wide-open mouth, the sudden aggressive display. When an opossum does this, every signal your brain reads says attack incoming. It isn't. Researchers who study opossum behavior classify this entire performance as a bluff display, not aggression. Underneath that terrifying mouth, the animal's heart is racing, its whole body is flooded with stress hormones, and running is not an option it feels it has. So instead, it does the only thing left. It tries to look as dangerous as physically possible, hopping you back off before it has to find out what happens next. It's the exact same logic as a small dog barking ferociously at something 10 times its size. Loud, dramatic, almost entirely bluff, and almost entirely born out of fear, not confidence. Now here's where it gets genuinely strange, and where most explanations stop short of the full picture. If the bluff fails, if you don't back away, the opossum has a second defense that virtually nothing else in North America uses in quite this way. It shuts down completely. And calling it playing dead is misleading, because this animal is not choosing anything in that moment. When its stress response crosses a certain threshold, its nervous system takes control involuntarily. The body goes rigid, then goes limp. Breathing slows to almost nothing. Heart rate drops. Glands near the base of the tail release a foul, rotting smell designed to convince a predator that this is already a carcass, not worth the effort of killing. This state is called thanatosis, and it is not a decision. It is closer to a full-body, involuntary shutdown triggered by extreme terror, and it can last anywhere from a few minutes to several hours. The animal has no control over when it starts, and no control over when it ends. It simply wakes up whenever its nervous system determines the danger has passed. Sit with that for a second. This is a creature that, when faced with something it cannot outrun and cannot intimidate, chooses total systemic shutdown and the smell of decay over actually fighting. That is not the profile of an aggressive animal. That is close to the opposite. It might be one of the least confrontational mammals in the entire ecosystem, and it's been treated like a monster for most of modern history because of a defense mechanism people misread as either aggression or disease. So why doesn't it just run like everything else in your yard does? Part of the answer is simple biology. Opossums are slow. Their bodies are low to the ground, their legs are short, and they were never built for a sprint the way a rabbit or a deer is. Running was never a strategy evolution equipped them for, so instead they were given two other tools, the terrifying bluff and the total shutdown. Neither one requires outrunning a single thing. Now let's get into the part of this story that most people never hear, the part that actually explains the title of this video. Opossums carry one of the lowest average body temperatures of any mammal their size, somewhere in the range of 94 to 97 degrees Fahrenheit. That single biological quirk has a strange consequence. The rabies virus struggles to replicate efficiently at that low a body temperature. This does not make opossums immune, and it doesn't mean rabies is impossible in this species. But confirmed rabies cases in opossums are documented as extremely rare compared to raccoons, bats, skunks, or foxes. The exact animal that triggers the most fear in most people's minds because of disease is, according to wildlife health data, one of the statistically safer wild animals to encounter in that specific regard. Then there's the grooming. Opossums spend a significant portion of every night meticulously cleaning their fur, and in the process, they remove and consume ticks and other parasites that latch onto them. Early ecological research raised the possibility that a single opossum could remove a striking number of ticks from its body over the course of a season simply through this grooming habit. That specific figure has been debated and revisited by later studies, and the scientific community is still working out exactly how large the effect really is. But the underlying behavior itself isn't in question. Opossums are unusually dedicated groomers, more so than most mammals their size, and that habit measurably reduces the number of ticks they're carrying compared to other wildlife moving through the same environment. So picture that moment again, the creature hissing at you under the porch light. The one that looks like the last thing you'd want anywhere near your children or your pets might actually be one of the more parasite-conscious animals currently walking through your grass at night, quietly reducing the very insects responsible for some of the most common tick-borne illnesses in the country. Here's another detail almost nobody learns unless they go looking for it specifically. Opossums are marsupials, not rodents, not related to rats despite the resemblance, but the only marsupial native to all of North America. That means a mother opossum carries her young in a pouch, similar in concept to a kangaroo, and the way that pregnancy unfolds is almost hard to believe. The bobbies are born after only about 12 to 13 days of gestation, at a stage so early that they are barely larger than a honeybee, blind, hairless, and essentially unfinished. From the birth canal, using nothing but instinct, they crawl through their mother's fur into the pouch and attach to a nipple, where they will stay developing for nearly 2 months. When they finally emerge, they don't leave her. They climb onto her back instead, sometimes 6, 7, even 10 of them at once, clinging on as she moves through your yard at night, teaching them the world one step at a time. If you've ever caught that exact image in a flashlight beam, a mother covered in tiny riders, and felt something other than disgust for half a second, that instinct wasn't wrong. That's simply a mother doing what mothers across the animal kingdom do, using every ounce of energy she has to keep her young alive. Now let's go back to the original question this entire video was built around. Why doesn't this animal run from you the way everything else does? Because running was never part of its design. Its entire existence is built around exactly 2 strategies. Bluff first, with everything it's got, and if that fails, shut the entire system down rather than escalate into a fight it has no chance of winning. It is not secretly aggressive. It is not the walking disease risk most people assume. It is not even particularly dangerous to you, your children, or your pets in any meaningful, documented way. It is an animal whose entire survival plan for tens of millions of years has been built on looking as terrifying as physically possible for a few seconds, and then simply giving up rather than causing harm to whatever is threatening it. Opossums, in some recognizable form, have existed for somewhere in the range of 70 to 80 million years. They were here before most of what we consider ancient wildlife. They survived the asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs. They outlasted species that were larger, faster, and far more physically imposing than they ever were. And they did it without speed, without strength, and without aggression. They did it by being exactly what they are: strange-looking, defensive only in appearance, and ultimately one of the most harmless wild animals you will ever encounter, to the point where its final line of defense against you is quite literally to shut its own body down rather than fight back. So the next time one shows up on your porch at night, hissing, mouth wide open, looking like something out of a nightmare, remember what's actually happening underneath that performance. A frightened, low body temperature, disease-resistant, parasite-grooming animal that would rather fake its own death, completely involuntarily, than ever hurt you. It's not what you think. It never was. And now, the next time you see one freeze in your headlights instead of running, you'll know exactly why. Not because it doesn't fear you, but because somewhere in its evolutionary history, it decided that looking dead was always going to be safer than trying to outrun the most dangerous species on the planet.